Okay, Alex, are you ready to call the meeting to order? You guys are all ready over there?
We're ready.
Okay, great. So let's call the meeting to order. It's 7:05, and we can start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
with liberty
indivisible, with liberty and
and
justice
justice
for
for all.
all.
Okay, great. And now we can move on to Spotlight.
Godfrey, do you have that, or do you want me to?
Go right ahead, Heidi.
Oh, you sure? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Spotlight section of our agenda for tonight, Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. The Norwalk Board of Ed is proud to recognize high school seniors Paul Buelsbach of Brian McMahon and Anna Makeover of Brian McMahon and Tom McCarthy of PTech for being acknowledged by the National Merit Scholarship Program. A longstanding tradition of elite academic recognition, Merit Scholar designees are selected based on their skills, accomplishments, and potential for success in rigorous college studies with regard to gender, race, ethnic origin, or religion preference. Over 1.5 million juniors and about 21,000 high schools entered the 2021 National Merit Scholarship Program. By taking the 2019 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test, which served as an initial screen of program entrance. Commended students are named based on a nationally applied selection index score that may vary from year to year. The nationwide pool of semifinalists, representing less than 1% of the US high school seniors, includes the highest scoring entrants in each state. An outstanding scholar, Paul, has been named a National Merit Scholarship Corporation semifinalist. He is one of approximately 16,000 semifinalists. Of these academically talented high school seniors, about 15,000 are expected to advance to the finalist level, which will be announced in February. Paul has excelled at rigorous coursework throughout his high school career, including college classes at Norwalk Community College and University of Massachusetts. Within the Brian McMahon High School community, he is a dynamic member of the golf team, marching band, math, and drama clubs. Outside of school, Paul is a longtime Boy Scout on the path to Eagle Scout. He is an active member of the Metropolitan Golf Association and is genuine in wanting to help others through his volunteer work at Person to Person, as well as the Maritime Aquarium. Anna Makeover has been named a commended student for the National Merit Scholarship Program. Anna is an international diploma candidate who has taken the most rigorous courses at Brian McMahon, known by staff and peers as conscientious, hardworking, and dedicated to academics. Anna proudly represents her school and community, having met these great accomplishments. A student of PTech, Tom McCarthy, has been named a commended student for the National Merit Scholarship. As a member of the National Honor Society, Tom is committed towards not only academic achievement, but also making a positive impact on his community. He has participated in several club organizations, including president of the Norwalk High School 3D Printing Club, secretary of the Japanese Language and Culture Club at Norwalk Community College. He also serves as a school committee member as well as an officer. The board here tonight is proud to acknowledge Paul, Anna, and Tom for their outstanding academic accomplishments. We are all confident here that these students will have bright careers ahead of them, both academically and as an integral part of today's society. So if we can commend all three, we certainly appreciate all of their hard work and dedication. Thank you.
Okay, and I believe the next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone in the meeting who is here for public comment? I know that we did not have any email submissions earlier in the day, so. Doesn't look like it to me.
No, actually, I think Sarah, we have potentially two people that
Oh, okay.
are for public comment. The first is, well, if you'd raise your hand, but Mary Jordan.
Oh, do I not have everyone in my view? Oh, okay. I see.
Hello.
Oh.
Hi, Mary.
Good to see you all. I'm glad you're all looking well, and it's an honor to be able to speak with you this evening. We congratulate the NFT congratulates the honorees of the spotlight this evening, including Paul, who I believe was one of my PONUS students. So it's kind of delightful to see these children get moving on in their lives. We welcome Dr. Sanders to Fox Run and are looking forward to working with her. I would just like to take a moment to thank you for the vote that I hope you will support the calendar change that is being proposed this evening. February 11th is one additional professional development day too many, and our contract is 188 work days. With all of the changes, I'm sure that was an oversight, and we appreciate the correction. Teachers are working very hard to meet the needs of students, in many instances at great detriment to their own health and well-being. We are very dedicated to the outcomes of students, and in many cases, our students are learning, and in some cases, we're not sure that the model is serving them so well. It is hard. Some kids learn very well remotely, and some don't. Some kids need a lot of extra attention and support, especially those little ones, especially during the testing. We're not confident that this model of teaching all kids in all places at all times in every way is really the best for many of our children. The final thing that I would like to point out is that according to our data dashboard, we have had a total of 576 community members quarantined as a result of school COVID exposure, various types of COVID exposures. And we currently have 246 according to that dashboard. As far as I'm aware, that dashboard, the numbers have increased every hour of this day. I'm sure that people at central office have been working very hard to notify and to identify. We appreciate the work that's being done to do it so well. We are grateful that McMahon is able to close for the time. It is of great concern to our members to walk into a building when there is a rushed process. We haven't seen a perfect process. There is nothing perfect in this world, but when our health and safety and that of our own families and children is at risk, we appreciate to err on the side of caution and close a building down rather than take the risk of walking back. It's a very difficult time to be a teacher, to be many things in society, and to earn a living at this point. But working with so many members of the public in our buildings is very unsettling. Nonetheless, we are committed to the work that we're doing and will continue, and we appreciate the partnership with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Ralph, who else is on the call that you think might be here for public comment?
I believe Amy Balkias, if I pronounce that correctly.
Amy? Going once, going twice?
I'm trying to actually allow her to talk, and it doesn't seem like it's allowing me to do that.
Okay.
Amy, just raise your hand, though, if you do want to talk. I'd have to promote you to a panelist. No.
No?
Okay. No, definitely. And we have one last public comment that I believe we want, which is Jeffrey Spar. I'm going to set him up at the podium so he can actually make a public comment since he's here in person.
Oh, okay, great.
Thanks.
Here we go.
Yeah. Do I speak into this?
You
or
just
that-
speak into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Jeff.
My name is Jeffrey Spar. I live at Stony Brook Road in Norwalk, Connecticut. And I wanted to thank the Board of Education for entertaining the ADHD Awareness Proclamation. About 15 years ago, my son was at the Columbus Magnet School, and we went to a function when he was in kindergarten. And we saw his classmates were coming in from the recess. And we were looking for him, like any parent would, to try to see him. And we didn't see him. But then I saw a couple of the kids were focusing over our heads behind us in the hallway. And one of them said, "Here comes the bad boys." And I turned around and I looked, and my son was being let out of the kindergarten room. They had kept him into this dark room, didn't get a chance to go out to recess with all the other kids and play. And I went to the teacher and I said, what was going on? She said, "Well, your son doesn't listen. He doesn't sit still in his seat. He gets up. He doesn't raise his hand. He's constantly looking out of the window. He's not paying attention, doesn't listen to direction," and things like that. We came to find out that he had been sent down to the principal's office 2 or 3 times a day. And I can just imagine what that did as far as his social standing did, his self-esteem, his ability to learn, his concentration, whatever. So I didn't get mad, didn't want to get even. I want to get informed. I want to spread the information. So I went to the Board of Education and I asked if they would please have a proclamation for ADHD awareness so we can expand the awareness of ADHD. And they waffled and they said it might be a good idea. Maybe we'll get to it. Well, they never got to it that year. So the following year, I went to the governor's office and I got the governor to issue a declaration making ADHD awareness. And we were the first state in the United States to have an ADHD awareness day by the governor. I got the mayor to sign it. Then I came back to the board, and after the board saw that the governor and the mayor had declared ADHD awareness, they said, "Okay, we're going to do it." But I'm happy to report that this year I was contacted by Yvette Gorovich, and she wanted me to take a look at the beautifully written ADHD awareness proclamation. And it was such a refreshing change that rather than me having to steer this ship, that the ship came up to my port and wanted to see if we could do it. So I wanted just to reach out and let you know that there's been a great sea change, and I wanted to thank Yvette and Brenda, and I wanted to thank the board for entertaining ADHD awareness. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Absolutely. Okay. If that concludes our public comment section, and I think it does, Ralph.
Yes, yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay. Then we're going to move on to the superintendent's report. And the first item under that is COVID-19 updates.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Chair.
Hi.
We want to provide today an update in reference to the COVID cases. As you're well aware, cases have been increasing throughout our community, and as a result, we've also had a spike in cases within our schools. Like Ms. Jordan articulated earlier, a lot of work has been put forward by all members of the team to ensure every child's safety and well-being, as well as the adults serving children. And it's been a really collaborative effort across the system. So I thought it would be important today to just provide an update on the numbers, but also procedures and protocols that have been taking place in order to contact trace and ensure that where necessary, we might be transitioning schools into full remote, and in places where we can expedite the process, ensuring everybody's safety first and foremost, we provide specific protocol in the way in which we're doing that. So I'm gonna have Ms. Brenda Williams come and speak a little bit about the dashboard and how that dashboard is being updated. As of today, we had an additional, just a few minutes ago, 10 new positive cases throughout the district that we've been contact tracing. We've created a cleaning schedule, and we should be okay for tomorrow. Some of these cases were associated with the Brian McMahon case, and it just shows that having quarantined that building for 14 days was the best decision. As well as other cases throughout the district. So I'll turn it over now to Ms. Williams to just speak a little bit about the platform. Then we'll have our nurses speak about the contact tracing protocols so that the community understands the process that is taken within the members of the community to ensure that the children are safe, as well as the staff.
Thank you. Good evening, board. As Dr. Estrella mentioned in
The podium microphone is
We can
muted.
hear you. El micrófono del podio está silenciado.
Yes, correct. There you go. Now it's on.
Ahora sí. Listo.
Oh, okay. Let me check.
Okay, is that better? Okay. All right, good evening, board members. And as Dr. Estrella
Buenas noches a los integrantes de la
mentioned
Junta.
earlier today as well.
Brenda, give me
Le-
because the interpreter and you are being heard at the same time.
Okay.
No.
Okay, one more
Okay.
time. Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
As Dr. Estrella mentioned, and as
Una
Mary
vez más,
referred
buenas
to
tardes a
earlier this evening as well. Okay, all right. We have established a COVID-19 dashboard
todos.
on the
El
website. It's accessible from the main page when you click on the 2020-21 school reopening image right there on the main page. And this will be updated weekly with the latest information on our COVID cases. The reason we did this is we were starting to ramp up with a number of different cases over the course of a day or a week. We had originally started with blasting emails out to the entire district, but it was starting to jam up people's inboxes and becoming a little bit repetitive. But we wanted to make sure that we still had all of this information available and that we were compiling it together so that the entire community could have the transparency of the number of cases that are coming through our school system. This is going to be populated every week with information provided by Joanne Malinowski and her nurses, as well as from the HR department when it comes to the staff side of the equation. And we will make sure that it has both new cases that were identified the week before, as well as compiling a total of all the cases since the first day of school. And it is up here in both English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole, so that we're covering all of our main communities. This will not take the place of notifications to a school community when a case has been confirmed in a school. And we do have a protocol in place working with our principals to make sure that they have the tools they need
para
to be able to
asegurarnos que
communicate
tengan las
when
herramientas que
necessary.
necesitan para
And the
poder
protocol that we
comunicarse
have
cuando
set
sea
up is that we do
necesario.
have
El
templates
protocolo que
in place that
nosotros
they can
hemos
use
fijado
that are
es que
already translated so
nosotros
that they can get
ya hicimos las
communications out
traducciones para
quickly.
que se pueda
One sec,
once
Brenda.
the-
Sorry, the translation is coming through in the Zoom audio again and it's on the live stream too. Oh, there we go. Okay, she's muted again. You're good.
Yes. Thank you.
Once the case has been confirmed, and I think Joanne is going to speak to that part of it, but once they have been confirmed and the contact tracing has been completed, and our strong preference is that contact tracing and the subsequent follow-up is done with phone calls so that people hear this directly and not by word of mouth. Once that has been accomplished, the principals will send out notification to their staff, the entire staff, if they haven't been contacted individually that their classroom is directly impacted. The entire building will get notified, and then the principal will also notify the entire school as well. And then after that, we'll make sure that it's reflected in the dashboard. If there is a special circumstance that we need to reinforce it on social media, for example, Cranberry was very late in the day. We needed to get the word out that school was not going to be in session. We'll put that up on social media as well. So we'll use all those tools to make sure people are being kept apprised of what's going on, but that we're not creating undue stress and multiple emails to people when they don't need that information. So that's where we are with the dashboard. And like I said, it'll be updated every Monday so that we've got everything compiled in one place for easy access. Okay.
That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you so much.
Gracias, fantástico. Muchísimas gracias.
Any questions from members of the board?
¿Alguna pregunta para los integrantes?
I did have one question, and I'm not sure. This is completely fantastic. My one piece of feedback would be that if you can scroll up to the English explanation, I am just thinking from experience of how information, and particularly statistical information, gets disseminated throughout the district. We have our official channels, and then we have, you know, the grapevine of people. And I'm thinking that the distinction between people in quarantine and number in quarantine can just be made slightly more clear, maybe by adding the word total, like, or to date or something like that, so that it's clear that at this moment in time, there are 246 people in quarantine, whereas previously, or up to this point in time. Do you know what I mean? I'm just thinking, and it's obviously not, it's not a huge deal. I just know accurate information is difficult to maintain in the giant game of telephone that is.
Thank you for that. We'll take a look at it and we will clarify it.
Got you. This is beautiful, though.
Thank you. If there's no further questions for Ms. Williams, then I'm going to transition now to Dr. Constanzo, who will be joined by our nurses and speak to some of the protocols in place around contact tracing.
Okay.
Good evening, board members. See Missy and Joanne coming up. These two employees have done outstanding work over the past several days, attempting to keep up with the COVID spread in Norwalk over the past several days. I am regularly in texting or phone conversation with Joanne until 11 o'clock at night, and we get started again the next morning at 5 or 6 a.m. As Brenda mentioned, we take each case in each school on an individual basis, and we attempt to make the best decision for that particular school community. And I think the one thing that I want to reiterate tonight is that in saying that, what we're attempting to do is ensure that we can provide a safe learning environment and teaching environment for our students and staff. And so we had a case this week where we simply didn't think we could get all of the contact tracing and cleaning done in time. And so in that instance, we decided to close the school for one day to make sure that we were ready, and that school operated on remote. In most of the cases, though, we get the confirmed COVID cases from the Department of Public Health in time in the evening to be able to do that exposure tracing that both of Joanne and Missy are involved in, well past 9 o'clock at night. And Bill Hodel has gotten the facilities crew used to being kind of ready and on call to begin a deep clean and a disinfectant process, anywhere between one room and an entire school building, depending upon the individual case. So I have Joanne here and Missy. They're going to speak a little bit more specifically about what goes into exposure tracing, which is what our health coordinators do. The Department of Public Health handles the contact tracing, and between the two groups who are in constant communication, we are able to determine each individual that may have been exposed to a COVID-19 confirmed case who was inside of a school. So I'm going to turn it now over to Joanne and Missy, and they can speak in more detail.
Good evening, everyone. I just would like to answer or just say one bit of information about our dashboard. Our dashboard is done weekly. We have our data every day. The problem with some of those numbers, and I understand where Sarah's coming from, you have to understand that there's a lag in reporting. I'm going to give you an example. There were 500 tests done this weekend at Stepping Stones and NCC. They don't have all of those results yet, anywhere near that. Many times people will go to an urgent care. They will get a telephone call from the physician's assistant at 9 o'clock at night, and they'll say that they're positive. The health department may not get that positive result until 2 days later, 3 days later. There's quite a lag in that. And it's happening not just with our health department, it's all over the place. So that's part of the reason why you may say, oh, there's more people out on quarantine than what it's showing. That's the reason for that. So I just wanted to clarify that one piece.
Thank you.
Contact tracing. We have to contact trace from a positive result. That's the most important thing. So we get our information from the health department. Lately, we have had many parents that have gone for testing, calling principals, calling nurses, and saying, my child tested positive. We take that information, and then I will give that information to the health department because there's a whole state surveillance. So we collaborate and we work very closely with them because we want to try and get in there as soon as possible to make sure all these kids are safe and our staff members, and we don't want them to come to school if they've obviously been exposed. So that's the first thing. And that's a lot of calling back and forth. So once we get the positive case, then we have to determine where that particular person was. Now, it could be a staff member, it could be a child, it could be anybody in the school. So we look to our principals and our teachers and the rest of our staff to be able to tell us who the cohorts were if it's in person. Even on remote, we get the remote kids as well because it's the number of cases. So when we do it, we have to look at the bus, all the extracurricular activities, athletics, where the child was in lunch, who they sat with in lunch. Now, elementary is easier because it's in the classroom, but when you're in, larger schools, et cetera. So this is pretty much what we do. Then we have to look up all the phone numbers and emails, and we call everybody that child was in contact with or staff member. So those are personal phone calls. So you can imagine, like McMahon, for example, there's a few hundred people that were contacted. Norwalk High School, all these bigger schools. But even a smaller school, if you have a bus that you have to call, any child that was on that bus, or say the bus para, everybody has to be notified and they have to quarantine. So, and then we tell them when they can come back. And then there's a whole lot of questions because if the child is quarantining in the house, what about the siblings? What about mom and dad? Can they go to work? Can they go to school? And yes, they can, as long as they're asymptomatic. And then we go from there. And then if they do become symptomatic, that's a whole different part of the tracing. And that's what the health department does, because then it changes everything 5 or 6 days later. So we follow up on all of them. We document it in our school medical records, and we have a lot of data. We had quite a few schools today. So it was we're still calling as we speak. And so we follow up on them. So we are trying to keep everybody safe. I can tell you one thing, that from what I've seen and the contacts, it's been more community spread, and that's really where we see it. Our measures that we're doing in school, all of our mitigating measures are working. And I feel very confident with that. Everybody is really wearing their masks, washing their hands, staying 6 feet apart, etc. So I'm happy about that piece, but we have an uptick. Right now, we have 69 cases today. I just got another case an hour ago in Norwalk, not in the school, in Norwalk. So it's rising. Missy, you want to say anything?
Only that one.
One second, questions from members of the board?
I just wanted to say thank you. Oh, Barbara, go ahead. Sure.
That too. Let me take this out because the feedback is challenging for me. So one metric that I think would be really helpful for the community.
Barbara, can you speak to the microphone?
Yes, sorry. One metric that would be helpful, I think, for the community to understand the relative safety of being in the school buildings as opposed to in the community might be to generate cases, 7-day rolling average or 7-day rolling average or cases in the schools per 100,000, so that we can really demonstrate through data that their children may very well be safer at school than at home, because at school we're following very strict procedures. We would put in the best filters. We have great processes to protect their children, and they're protected from learning loss and from emotional detachment that we know can lead to disengaged youth and at-risk youth. So I think that might be a metric that could help us make the case to trust us with your children.
We can certainly look at that, Barbara. I was on a call this morning with Dr. Lynn Sosa, who's head of the Department of Public Health, on her webinar every Tuesday morning. They're looking at a 14-day rolling, because it's 7 days is just impossible at this point, because our cases are really starting to rise throughout the state, not just Norwalk.
Those 14-day averages are based on the city at large, not necessarily the schools. And I think what you're asking is specifically about the schools.
Yes, I'd like to disaggregate the information, track our cases, for our 11,650, whatever students it is, and extrapolate what that would be in terms of cases per 100,000, just to show the difference between community spread and in-school spread, because I think that would be telling.
Yeah, I know they're hiring an epidemiologist at the health department shortly.
That's great news. Thank you so much for your work, you guys.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything, Lisa?
No, I mean, in regards to the contact tracing, when we make the calls, we call, if we leave a message. I know I've called from home. My phone number starts with 500, so most people think I'm trying to sell them auto warranties. So they send me right to voicemail. I leave them a message telling them that I'm going to call back. If, once again, I cannot get through, I leave a detailed message, and we also follow up with an email in both English and Spanish with all the dates in there and the specific instructions. So we make sure that in one way or another, our families are contacted with the information they need.
We leave our phone number too.
Yeah, they all have my phone number.
And our office number as well.
Yep.
And my cell phone also.
For sure.
Yep. That's about it.
Because we are finding that there is a lot of community spread, and some of it is related to social events. I'm not sure if it makes sense to think about any messaging that might come from us, not in a punitive way or a scolding way, but just in an informational way. Like, we understand everybody's exhausted. This has been very difficult and it's a marathon. And if you're socializing, please still wear your mask. Please still stay 6 feet apart, kind of thing. I wouldn't want to make it seem as if the board or the district were encouraging people to do things that were unsafe. But I think that we have found that in countries where they've had the most success at controlling the spread, they have been realistic in terms of how people tend to behave and what their social emotional needs may be. And so that might be something we want to consider as well.
So on that note, we had a conversation with the principals on Monday about making sure they're messaging exactly what you just expressed, Madam Chair, around ensuring that we reiterate the importance of wearing a mask, washing our hands, keeping social distance, even when we're not in school. We're in the process of working on a video that will be created with I'll be in it, and other members of the team, just reiterating for the community the importance of keeping the same measures that we have in school when they go home, We've noticed, obviously, with some of the events that happened this weekend, that social gathering when not wearing a mask or practicing social distancing has led to some of the spikes that we're seeing within the district. So we're hopeful that while all the principals throughout the district, including the central office, engage in messaging to the community, the importance of following the CDC guidelines and protocols, and its importance that we can help mitigate some of the challenges that we are currently seeing, especially right now with the flu season and the cold season coming. And we want to make sure that people understand the duplicate risk that we will encounter this season, given that we now also have to worry about COVID. So we have that in mind. And I want to just reiterate a special thank you to our nurses and to all of the chiefs and other personnel that have been working tirelessly every Saturday and Sunday. They've been on it because we want to make sure that we effectively contact trace, buildings are organized. A special thank you to Bill Holdell and his team, who hasn't had a break since the spike has taken place, working every single day of the week to ensure that our kids and staff have a clean, safe environment. Any further questions from the board in terms of COVID-19?
No, but a huge piggyback on those thank yous. Oh, Heidi, go ahead.
That's right. I don't know if it was Erica or I. I'll just have a quick comment. I just wanted to add, what are we doing? Like, what protocols are in place for our playgrounds for, anyone, family, students coming in after hours and using playgrounds, without socially distancing? I mean, it's not part of the school day, but it's after the school day. Do we have any protocols in place for that? Dr. Estrella, I was just curious about that.
I'm going to have Frank speak to that.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Frank.
So our procedure, Heidi, at this point has been that schools not use the playground equipment during the school day. Outside of regular school hours, that really is, a decision that individual families are choosing to make. Yeah. But at this point in time, we're not comfortable having students out at the playground on the playscapes in particular. Yeah. And ensuring that cohorts stay segregated, and that we just can't ensure that we can get the equipment disinfected in between recesses. So at this point, we're still operating the recess plan that are in the reopening plan guidelines, which are still very good and allow kids to get outside and experience fresh air and play with their cohort of students that they're with throughout the day. But that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Erica, you had a question too?
Yeah, very quickly on the notifications. I heard you say calls. Are we also using SMS push notifications to contact the families and have them do the inbound contacts? And is there a technical reason why we can't do that? It seems like it would be a little bit faster.
I didn't hear the question.
Using SMS as the outbound notification versus calling them all individually, just to get out there a little bit faster when we need to contact trace.
Oh, it's a contact tracing question.
She's asking about SMS and why are we not using it rather than calling parents individually?
SMS meaning texting.
Yes.
Texting.
That's a good question. It's not something that we began the year with, and I think we've utilized the current model of traditional phone calls. Brenda is going to come up and say a word more about the texting.
Yeah, we have more phone numbers in place than we do have permission to using the SMS text. So we do use it when we have emergency notifications to go out en masse, but because we have to get permission from people to proactively be able to text them, it's not always a reliable way for the nurses to be able to pull that from the system and know whether or not people have given us permission in order to do that. So Where we do use it, where we can for notifications, I'm not quite sure it's something that's going to be really effective for us in this particular instance.
Is there a mechanism for us to push out an email and request that opt-in? I'm sure I don't know if I opted into it, but if it meant coming down to a faster notification that my family may have been exposed, I would certainly respond very quickly to that email and add that opt-in.
Yeah, we typically do that every year, twice a year, but it is time we should probably get it out again. As part of our school reopening registration, there was a very big push to make sure that we had contact phone numbers for everybody. We can go back and definitely make sure that we encourage people to check that box so that we can have more access to people via text message.
Fantastic.
The other challenge for us is we want to make sure that
that we contact the family, like the nurses have articulated. If the family is not available, they leave a message and they keep trying until they reach the family. Doing a text limits us in confirming whether or not the information was received by the families. So the traditional way is the way that we can accurately confirm that families have been informed and that they receive the information that we're seeking to notify them about.
I was more thinking of a push notification that would request a callback. So you could get that confirmation, but the heavy lifting would be taken off of you of making every single individual phone call.
Yeah, so I totally understand about the push notification. And again, we'll make sure that we push something out to let people know that they can opt into this. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be more effective when we have mass communications versus the individual communications that the nurses have to make, because they are literally having to go in and pick through PowerSchool to identify which children they need to contact on a case-by-case basis. So I'm not sure whether or not that's going to be an effective tool for us, but we'll take a closer look at it.
One additional comment in the back here, talking with Joanne and Missy, and so they articulated that the preferred method is the phone call because it allows families to ask very specific medical questions of them. It does not have to be in written form, and it allows an exchange in which the nurses can get a whole lot more information related to health in the family, not just the individual student. So at least at this point, they're both feeling as though the phone call method is the preferable one at this point.
I was more thinking, just to clarify my point, if we push out a notification that says, please contact Norwalk Public Schools at this number to discuss a potential exposure, you're going to get a call back pretty quickly, and then you can ask those questions. So you would still have that one-on-one contact.
Okay, they're doing some of that now. They're behind me, but they're saying they're doing some of that initial text outreach, and parents are then asked to call back in their office to have the detailed question and answer.
Great.
Heidi, I think, had a question.
Yeah, just a quick, add on to Erica's point. So thank you for all of your hard work. I know to contact trace and all the work that you've done is, I'm sure, overwhelming at times, and we appreciate the dedication and all the time that everybody's put in. But I just wanted to know success rate. You know, when you have a number, cell number, you're contacting a parent, you normally get the parent right away. And if you don't, I assume you have a backup number that you're calling right away. I was just curious how that process works. If somebody is working, not able to pick up, and then do you leave a voice message, or do you call the next number that's required? I just was curious of the process.
So they usually contact the number. We've had a pretty good success rate in getting in touch with parents. And when we have not been able to, we leave a message, and we've been able to get a response immediately thereafter. So I haven't seen a pattern, given the conversations we've had when we circle back, that there's been a challenge getting in touch with parents.
Okay, so there's a sense of urgency, obviously, and then a parent will call back. I know that there would be a main number and then a backup number. I just wasn't sure the success rate of getting a hold of someone right away and the importance of that.
No, we haven't seen a pattern of difficulty around that piece.
Okay, thank you so much.
And a final note around this topic, I just want to thank our health director, Diana Diamore, who has been phenomenal as well and accessible at all points in time. Mayor Reeling, I just want to say that your staff has been an outstanding partner in this work. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I know Deanna works 7 days a week, and I can get a hold of her at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night or 5 o'clock on a Monday morning. She's always available, and I don't know how she does it. It's got to be that she's young.
She's incredible.
For sure.
If there are no further questions, I'd like to move to the second item on the agenda.
For sure. So that's the no bully implementation update at Silvermine.
Correct.
Okay.
So as the community may be aware, it is Bullying Awareness Month, and the district has engaged in a concerted effort in engaging in different practices to reduce bullying across the system. At Silvermine, they have implemented the No Bullying program, which has been yielding some really positive outcomes for our students. And we have Elizabeth here from Silvermine, who will be presenting on the topic.
Okay, so I'm just going to switch over to your slideshow. Just click on
Great. Right, good evening, board, and thank you all for having me tonight and allowing me to share with you a little bit about what Silvermine is doing. And I also just want to say thank you as well for the opportunity to partner with No Bully. We were approached before the pandemic back in the winter, and we were so incredibly excited at the opportunity to deepen our understanding and to fill our toolbox just a little bit more, especially as we work to be a more restorative school. So when I began a few years ago at Silvermine, one of the first things that we did was we rewrote our school mission. And over time, we've all come to terms with the fact that our school mission is as much a mission about biliteracy. Sure. As much about biliteracy as it is about our students' social and emotional well-being. Perfect. And so what No Bully, are we okay?
It's not changing it on me.
Does that work now? Yeah, okay, great, perfect. So what the biggest piece that No Bully has brought to our school is it's filled in two major gaps for us, which was a gap in really bringing the school community and involving our parents in our initiative. It's given us a platform and some great tools to do that. And then most importantly, the No Bully system has allowed us to bring in what was really lacking, which was our students' voice. So it's a process that really allows our students to solve their own problems in a really safe and effective way. So according to No Bully, they have it's an evidence-based practice that has a 90% chance or 90% accuracy. Let's see if this is working. Ralph, can you switch that? Sorry,
No, that's
Rob.
okay.
Oh, what did
Yeah,
I do
just
wrong? Okay, great.
Push on that.
Okay, thank you. So perfect, thank you. So they tout a 90% accuracy when it comes to resolving bullying issues in schools. And they collect data from the beginning to the end through a series of surveys, both with the students, the teachers, and their families. So that was actually our first step this year, was to take just a very simple survey to collect some baseline data. And this is actually, our numbers have improved. We're at about 90% of our students have participated at this point. And I found it very interesting to see. So the students had to categorize what kinds of bullying they saw as something that happened either frequently, sometimes, or not at all. And what we found was that name calling, leaving people out of fun games and activities, making mean gestures, and playing unfriendly jokes were what our students were most concerned about. And that really comes down to both verbal and relational types of bullying are the most common in our building. On the other side of the coin, thankfully, physical and cyberbullying, while still occur, are not at the top of our students' concerns at this moment. They also asked some open-ended questions about how students do hurt each other at Silvermine, and I just did want to share that most of what they talked about had to do with name calling, and they cited skin color, weight, intelligence, strength, and physical appearances as examples of what they're suffering. I also noticed our students used words like teasing, judging, discouraging, embarrassing, laughing at, threatening, and fighting as words to describe their experiences. And at the end of the survey, it asked, what do you think that the school community should do? And as you can see, the biggest answer really was, I don't know. And so here comes No Bully, and I think that it really does have its place in our community. So we're still at the very beginning of the process. Let me show you here. So they call No Bully a system. It's very, very simple. It has 4 levels, and it really has to do with multi-tiered systems of supports as far as social and emotional learning. And so the first step, and this is where we are as a school community at the moment, is just we're working to prevent and build an inclusive school community. So it's really about the climate and the culture that we're creating. Our staff yesterday participated in a foundational training, which we also participated in as a leadership team over the summer. And then this upcoming week and next week, we're offering parent workshops about bullying in our schools, which will offer parents some common language to understand the difference between conflict, bullying, harassment. And from there, we're going to build what we call a solutions team. The solutions team is a group of staff members who have volunteered to be solution coaches. And they basically will lead their students through a process with the solutions team where the students come around and they address the bully, they address the target, and they come up with their own solutions to support each one. It's a process that lasts more than a month. They meet 3 times, and then there's even a 3-month follow-up meeting as well. So it's a real wraparound service for the students. Should this not, so levels 2 and level 3 would be your tier 2 supports. And should the bullying continue, we're going to be receiving some training as far as what we would do to implement an empathy building action plan that changes the behaviors, because clearly it's a bigger problem than it first appeared. And this just kind of shows it's what we really love about No Bully right now. The timing is perfect. It's very simple with everything else that we're trying to accomplish. It's just come in at the perfect time. We are seeing an uptick in some cyberbullying. A lot of meanness is happening behind the screen. And so our teachers and our parents are really excited that we're going to have a process in place as far as how to address this in a meaningful way. So at this point, we have completed our leadership coaching and our foundational training. We're in process with our families right now. We're going to get a little bit more training in November. And our hope is by the second week in November, we'll be running our first solutions teams with our students. I just left some information here for if anybody is interested in learning more about the No Bully program. Thank you all very much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
Great presentation. All I have to say is great. And in terms of how you have a very high bilingual population, you know, how has it been engaging, you know, students whose first language is English, you know, in mediating issues with students whose first language is Spanish? Is there anything attributable to this you can reference for how that supports the common language to come down and address issues?
Absolutely. Now, I have to be, this is a full disclosure here, is we're still in the training portion, so we haven't facilitated these solution teams. However, we are a restorative school and have been facilitating restorative circles now since the beginning of last year. We facilitate our circles all of our circles almost always end up being a mixture of English and Spanish. It's actually a time when we have a tendency to code switch a little bit, but the vast majority of our staff that runs our restorative circles and our solutions teams are bilingual. And of course, the majority of our students at this point are as well. So it doesn't seem to matter who in our school at this point is having a conflict. We're all able to speak to one another in our first languages.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, you know, I do want to just add one other thing is that at Silvermine also our social and emotional learning special is conducted by a bilingual social worker, and that class is taught entirely in Spanish all year. So actually, I would not be surprised if some of our students are better able to talk about their feelings and their emotions in Spanish than in English, because that's actually the language we're teaching it in.
That's great. Thank you for that.
For sure. Erica, go ahead.
I just want to take a moment to thank Dr. Costanzo for embracing this program. He and I had a conversation when I first joined the board about having a conversation with the folks at No Bully, who I have a professional relationship with, given that I work in social media, and cyberbully, unfortunately, is a reality in that space. And he was kind enough to bring it to the principals, and Dr. Shaheen, no surprise, she's such a progressive leader, latched onto this, and the children at Silvermine truly are benefiting from it. It's such an important cause. 1 in 3 students are bullied in some form by their peers. 12 million students in the US will be bullied this year. It is truly an epidemic, and I'm so proud of Norwalk Public Schools for embracing a proactive instead of reactive solution to this problem.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you very, very much for that.
Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to add or ask? I can't see because the screen share is blocking my gallery view.
Would you like me to stop the share?
For sure. Thank you so much. Excellent. Okay. So thank you again. That's excellent. And it's particularly timely. And let's see what we have next. We have the district enrollment update, Dr. Estrella.
So I just provided the board with the latest enrollment update. We also included 2019, 2018 for the board's reference. This is the overarching enrollment numbers. At the present time, when we look at our numbers, From last year, we have 136 students less than in previous years, of which 44 students are currently homeschooled. And when we look at the pre-K enrollment, because we currently do not necessarily offer a remote option for pre-K, 44 parents decided also to disenroll their children from the program. So we have, from that 136 students, 88 students that opted other choices across the district. We wanted to make sure that the board had this information. We also broke down the data by different categories: multilingual learners, special education, free and reduced lunch, ethnicity, as well as gender for the board and the public's information. We will place these in the board documents at the end of the presentation today. But we thought it would be important for the board to know where we're trending. Our enrollment numbers this year look pretty similar to 2018's number, especially because we had a spike in enrollment last year in 2019. When we looked at the pattern, we didn't see any significant shifts, relatively speaking, by school. Although when you look at the data, there's some elements of the data that are being collected a little bit differently from the past, especially when you look at the 2018 data, because now we're separating P-TECH, which is something we weren't doing in the past. I'm just going to pause for a minute if there are any questions in reference to this piece of the enrollment data.
Does anyone have any questions? I'm good.
I do have one question about, statewide, the governor released information that said
Barbara, is that you? I can't hear you if it is.
that 13,000 students are sort of unaccounted for. Sorry, I hate this. The lag is challenging. The governor released information that indicated that 13,000 students in the state had sort of gone off the rolls and nobody quite knew where they went. Our piece of that pie is not very large, but we also need to understand that they may very well come back next year. And so it would be helpful to know who the students are that we lost and what their plans are, before we go into the budgeting process, to really establish whether this is a true plateau or if it's an anomaly based on the pandemic. So I think that would be important for budgeting purposes.
I think that's one of the reasons why we were looking at homeschool and pre-K, because those students will be returning. One of the things that we're doing at NECC is that we're running a trial remote option for families just to see how that plays out. And if it's a success, then we will be able to offer that to more pre-K students. But we know for a fact that at least for, our pre-K numbers, which will be our kindergarten numbers next year, will be much larger as a result of the fact that some of these families opted otherwise. As well as we have the possibility that parents that chose to homeschool for this year will come back. So we know that we have the possibility of at least 88 students. The other students moved, in many cases, just relocated from our district. In terms of, I want to share different enrollment piece. Give me 1 second. One of the things that members of the board had asked is, did we get an influx of students in our district from other areas? So I wanted to share that piece of information as well, with the caveat that we have to also take into consideration the fact that in some cases, some of the numbers might be influenced by CGS, which allows students from out of district. But one of the things that you will see here, that we got a significant number of kids from New York State, 81. We received 26 students from out of the country and 10 students from Florida. Those are the three highest trends besides our normal Connecticut students. When we look at Connecticut and break Connecticut down by the different townships, we notice that Stanford, we have 98 students from Stanford. Then we have All Saints side by side, Winston Prep. We had 59 students return back to our system from these private programs. And we have 57 students from that came from Bridgeport. And then the next is New Canaan, 13. Again, like I have to preface the caveat that these numbers also include students from our CGS partner schools that are engaging in the CGS program. But I thought this information would be valuable because I know some of the board members wanted to know what trends existed currently around students coming from different areas, particularly New York State, because there was a significant influx of students coming from New York State into other townships within our vicinity. Any questions?
One more. Another one tied back to the budget. So, normally in the fall, we do a big push to make sure that we're identifying every family that may qualify for free and reduced lunch. And, this year we've got the great windfall of the free lunch supported by the USDA and the FDA for the whole district through the end of the school year. But I wonder, seeing that knowing the economic struggles that our community is experiencing because of COVID and the closure, I wonder if we've been aggressive enough in documenting our free and reduced population, because that qualifies us for additional funding in theory. And so I wonder, I know we're all scrambling to just do the work right now, but perhaps at some point we could do another push to make sure that people are identified and included in our statistics.
So ironically, today, Dr. Costanzo and I were having a conversation regarding free and reduced lunch, and we talked about making sure that we were circling back and ensuring that the forms were being completed, and if not, creating a plan of action to address that. I don't know, Dr. Costanzo, if you want to add anything in respects to that. Can they hear you?
No, Frank is muted.
Just one quick additional point. So for the remainder of the year, the USDA has provided free meals for all students in Norwalk. But although that's the current plan, we still have to make sure that all students who are on the third year of their 3-year SNAP eligibility complete the renewal form for the next 3 years. So it's important that we complete that process so we can maintain our free reduced percentage once this year is over and we go back to normal, hopefully go back to normal.
Any further questions around enrollment from the board?
No, I think we're set, and we should keep track of our time a bit because we're actually still technically on the first piece of the agenda. So
that concludes my superintendent report, Madam Chair.
Okay. It was a very robust, thorough report. Thank you so much. We have next on the agenda, we have our actions. So let's do that. We have our consent calendar, which includes approval of personnel and budget transfers. Can I have a motion to approve both of those as one piece? Barbara, and a second. Erica, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that passes unanimously. Then we have number 3, which is the appointment of Dr. Sylvia Sanders as the principal of Fox Run Elementary School. May I have a motion? Colin, and second, Barbara. Do we have any discussion? Is Dr. Sanders present? Do we want to let her know?
Dr. Sanders is in quarantine.
Oh, okay. Then all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Also unanimous. We have approval of the Coronavirus Relief Fund grant submission. A motion for that. Barbara, a second. Heidi, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. I'm noticing a little bit of a trend here, I have to tell you. Number 5, we have approval to apply for funding for Alliance District Building Grant Program. A motion for this. Godfrey, a second. Diana. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'm going to actually just do this to save us some time. Actually, no, I can't. Never mind. I was going to say, because we have a couple of recognitions at the end. Okay. Number 6, approval of the Title IX policy. A motion for that. Diana, a second. Erica, any discussion? Heidi, did you want to say anything about that?
I know we had a fairly robust discussion during our last meeting, I think, which was on September 8th. We had several meetings as a policy committee. We had a presentation by Chris Sugar and really customized this particular policy for Norwalk. So again, I know that we had a lengthy discussion during our last meeting with the presentation. So I think we pretty much said everything we needed to during that meeting, but I don't know if there's any other questions or discussions from there. I think it looks pretty good.
Okay, great. Barring any further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. We have number 7, approval to amend the 2020-2021 school year calendar to reflect 188 work days, as Ms. Jordan said before in her comments. May I have a motion? Barbara, second. Erica, any discussion of this? Pretty straightforward. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and now we have item 8, which is the recognition of Bullying Awareness and Prevention Month for October 2020. And I have in my packet a write-up for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but I don't have a piece of text for either of the 2 other recognition items. I don't know if one exists. Okay. Well, I think we can take the wonderful presentation that we just saw as a testament and very thorough and robust explanation of the need and some of the mechanisms that are in place for bullying awareness and prevention in the district. May I have a motion to approve? Barbara, may I have a second? Diana, would anyone else like to say anything about Bullying Awareness and Prevention Month? Any discussion? Barbara, go ahead.
I just want to thank everyone in the district and all of our partners through Norwalk Acts who are focusing on social emotional learning and creating healthy school climates for our children. When I was a Girl Scout leader, we used to do an exercise where we would take a piece of paper that was shaped like a heart and we would fold it a bunch and then unfold it. And so, you know, you can't take those creases out of the painful things that people have said to each other. They don't go away. And so I just really love that we're zeroing in on being proactive and creating a positive
for sure
climate rather than waiting to try and remediate when things have gone wrong.
I got you. And I think that that's a good metaphor, that activity. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. We have item 9, which is recognition of ADHD Awareness Month for October 2020, which I also don't have a piece of writing for, but I think Mr. Sparr's excellent story earlier can serve to remind everyone of the necessity for awareness of ADHD.
Sarah, just as a note, I think it was in the original packet that went out, not the addendum.
Okay, I can't locate that. If they're Brenda, if you're still here, and these are pieces of writing that I can, if anybody has that to hand, it would be great if you wanted to email it to me very quickly. If not, let's see. In my folder, Maura has just texted me, but my folder is not with me because it's there. Would someone who is there, like Diana, for example, would you like to read the ADHD Awareness Month declaration?
I'm not there in person, but I do have it in front of me if that's okay.
That's totally fine, Colin.
Okay,
that would be great.
What's prepared to recognize ADHD Awareness Month for October 2020. The Board of Education recognizes October as National ADHD Awareness Month to bring awareness to the issues surrounding attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. The theme of this year's ADHD Awareness Month is Common Questions, Reliable Answers. Armed with reliable information about ADHD, we encourage people impacted by ADHD to seek assessment, to get appropriate treatment, share resources, and celebrate successes. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder affecting both children and adults around the globe. ADHD and ADD all refer to the same disorder. Some individuals diagnosed with ADHD may have symptoms of hyperactivity, while others may show symptoms of inattentiveness. Medical research shows that ADHD is both genetic and a brain-based disorder. The factors that appear to increase a child's likelihood of having the disorder include gender, family history, prenatal risks, environmental toxins, and physical differences in the brain. ADHD affects people of every age, gender, IQ, and religious and economic background. We know that failure to accommodate and understand ADHD in school can have negative effects on learning and social performance. Children with ADHD may have trouble paying attention, controlling impulsive behaviors, or be overly active. As we navigate COVID-19, the biggest concerns for adolescents and young adults are social isolation, motivational problems, and difficulties engaging in online work or schooling. However, when children, teens, and adults are diagnosed early and receive supports and treatment, they can lead fulfilling, successful, and productive lives. A combination of multimodal treatments such as medication, psychotherapy, behavioral interventions, and educational interventions and support focus on reducing the impact of ADHD, accommodating the symptoms, and leading to improved outcomes. By declaring this ADHD Awareness Month, the Board of Education encourages the community to reflect on this disorder and to seek out information that will help them to understand and appreciate the challenges that their peers are facing. Our long-term vision is to move past awareness and to accept and embrace individual differences.
For sure. And to that point, not as a point of criticism, but just because I have a neurologically diverse family, I would say that I would use the word atypicality rather than disorder in describing people who have ADHD. So with that, we are in discussion, and I think we can just vote to recognize October as ADHD Awareness Month. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and now we can move to recognition of October 2020 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that I do have in front of me.
Sarah?
Yes.
I have the bullying awareness one if you want me to read that.
Oh, okay.
I know we passed it, but we didn't read it.
We did not. Sure, let's do that, and then we'll do this.
Norwalk Public Schools is pleased to join others across the country in recognizing October as Bullying Awareness and Prevention Month. In October and throughout the school year, Norwalk Public Schools students, staff, and parents work together to raise awareness and to promote a positive culture that eliminates bullying. Bullying is unwanted, aggressive, repeated behavior among school-aged children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. Bullying includes actions such as making threats, spreading rumors, attacking someone physically or verbally, and excluding someone from a group on purpose. Bullying can also take place through technology. To address bullying at all school levels is essential to reducing incidences of bullying. In alignment with the strategic operating plan, Norwalk Public School staff utilize positive behavioral strategies. These strategies provide students in the classroom, small groups, or individuals with a school environment that is positive, safe, welcoming, and inclusive. Another strategy currently being piloted at Silvermine Dual Language Magnet School is the No Bully System. The No Bully System is an evidence-based prevention and intervention program whose mission is to eradicate bullying and cyberbullying worldwide. The goal of No Bully is to reduce incidences of bullying, improve school culture, reduce school violence, and support educational outcomes. Staff and parents will receive No Bully training over the coming months. A group of Silvermine staff members will also train to be solution coaches. Solution coaches will facilitate teams of students and empower them to bring bullying to an end. Coaches will then follow up with any student stuck in the role of bully or target. At Norwalk Public Schools, we encourage students to speak up when they see an issue or injustice happening, but know that this is not always easy. To encourage the concept of if you see something, say something, students and parents have access to an anti-bullying app called Anonymous Alerts. Anonymous Alerts provides them with the ability to report bullying and safety issues quickly. Through the app, issues are anonymously reported to school administrators and counselors. This includes reports of suspicious activity, safety threats, bullying, drug abuse, depression, harassment, family issues, and self-harm issues. By declaring October Bullying Awareness and Prevention Month, the Board of Education encourages all Norwalk students, parents, and members of the community to spread messages of kindness, acceptance, and inclusion.
Thank you so much, Diana. Okay, let's have our motion to recognize October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month also, Barbara, and a second by Erica, and I will read the declaration about that. Norwalk Public Schools recognizes October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast Cancer Awareness Month is a global campaign that takes place each year to increase awareness of this disease. Other than skin cancer, breast cancer is the most common cancer among American women. Each year in the United States, more than 250,000 women get breast cancer and 42,000 women die from the disease. About 1 out of every 100 breast cancers diagnosed in the United States is found in a man. Most breast cancers are found in women who are 50 years old or older, but breast cancer also affects younger women. Studies have shown that the risk for breast cancer is due to a combination of factors. Having a risk factor does not mean a person will get the disease, and not all risk factors have the same effect. If you have breast cancer risk factors, talk with your doctor about ways you can lower your risk and about screening for breast cancer. Mammograms are the best way to find breast cancer early when it is easier to treat and before it is big enough to feel or cause symptoms. Breast cancer treatments have evolved over the years, and those diagnosed with breast cancer have more treatment options than ever. In addition to early detection, there are ways to help decrease the risk of breast cancer, including remaining physically active, maintaining a healthy weight, and limiting alcohol usage. Norwalk Public Schools employees are encouraged to stand up to breast cancer together on Friday, October 23rd by wearing pink to school. To help support and create awareness for those who have been affected by breast cancer, we also invite all students and parents to join us by wearing pink. By declaring October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the Board of Education encourages our community to join in the fight against breast cancer by learning more about this disease, encouraging early detection screenings, and supporting breast health education. All in favor of approving October 2020 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously also, and I am going to go back up to my agenda here. And now we will.
Sarah, can I just add something for one moment, if you don't mind? Thank you so much for, all these recognitions, everything that we're recognizing. It certainly is so important. And I just wanted to mention, personally, I went through breast cancer. So I'm a 10-year breast cancer survivor, and it's so critically important to be aware and also be an advocate for your own health, and certainly getting mammograms every year. So thank you again for all the recognitions that everybody mentioned this evening.
That's great. And thank you for sharing that with us, Heidi, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
10 years. Okay. Information and reports. So we have our September 2020 monthly financial report. Is Tom on the call? Oh yeah, I see you. There you go. Hi, Tom. But I don't hear him saying anything.
Okay, go. Okay, good evening, board members. I assume you can hear me.
We can, but the video at the podium is off, Tom.
Oh, no video is on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I could do that. Oh, you're going to turn that over there? Okay, Ralph's turning the video on. I'll get started. We are now at the end of September, so we are 3 months of the way through the fiscal year and 1 month through the school year. So about 25% of the way through the fiscal year, but only 10% of the way through the school year. At this point in time, we've spent 10.4% of the budget. There are a number of fairly significant items that have not hit yet, and that explains the reduction compared to the same time last year. And those items are in the area of benefits. The city controller books the Board of Education's contribution to the insurance fund on a quarterly basis, and she's not yet booked the first quarter of the year, and that is approximately $8 million. So you'll see there's about an $8 million difference in last year at the same time versus this year at the same time, and that's really just a timing issue on the booking of those benefits. There's also another fairly large variance from prior year under other services, the 500 series of accounts. You'll see about 543,000 or 528,000 spent year to date compared to 5.7 million last year. And the reason for that is the district now has a new transportation contract. Under our prior transportation contract, it provided for a fairly substantial discount for prepayment of the bus contract, the transportation contract. So we took advantage in the past of that prepayment discount. I'm not a big fan of prepayment discounts simply because I generally don't like to pay for services before you receive them. And when we put the RFP out this time, we didn't, identify that as something we were looking for. And so that is not part of the contract with Durham going forward. So that's the reason why there's a pretty significant swing in that transportation line item. Wages, at this point in time, we've spent 13.7% of our wage accounts, which is right about where we would expect it to be at this point, the end of September. Obviously, we have a mix of 10-month employees and 12-month employees, and that counts for the percent expended to date. You'll also see some expenses in the repair and maintenance line items, And these really accommodate or take into account the summer work that happens routinely, as well as some of the COVID-19 preparations that took place in advance of the opening of schools. And in the supplies and materials accounts, you'll see some of the same impacts. You'll also see something that maybe looks like an anomaly, and that is you'll see in some cases, there's some negative numbers in the monthly actuals under supplies and materials. And just to explain what that is, the city controller typically books things that are old year expenses against the new year and then journal entries them back. So what we had happen here was there was some expenses that were booked against the new year in August that were then reversed and moved back to the old year in September. So that's really nothing to be concerned about. So overall, we're pretty much where we would expect to be. We're on budget, and as you know, you've already approved the COVID relief fund grant and have seen that budget. And with those additional funds, we believe we have the resources that we need between the grant funds as well as the expectation that when it is presented to the Board of Estimate and Taxation in November, that the city, we believe, will approve the carryover that we've discussed previously from last year, and that between those funding sources, we believe that we have our reopening, extraordinary reopening expenses related to COVID-19 covered. I don't know if there's any questions. Let me put my headphones back on so I can hear if there's any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Tom?
I just want to honor your work. I just want to honor your work and that of your staff. It's been incredible. And sometimes
your planning and recharging within half the year. You guys have working flat out for months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
For sure. Tremendous thanks and commendations to you and your team.
Right.
Does anybody else have anything else for Tom? Are we good? Okay, great. Awesome. Thanks so much, Tom. We can move into committee and representative reports then. And let's go. It doesn't make any sense to go clockwise or counterclockwise. Heidi, did policy meet since the last time we had a business meeting?
Yes, unfortunately, I was unable to chair. I had an event for my daughter, but I did have Godfrey. Thank you, Godfrey. Godfrey did chair the committee. I wanted to make sure, unfortunately, I couldn't make it, but I wanted to make sure that we had a discussion and that we still kept the committee going. There was a discussion, and Godfrey and any of the committee members can interject as I'm speaking, but about working on or looking at some type of procedure, looking at a policy, but more likely a procedure during COVID, specifically for homework for elementary school students. So I know Dr. Estrella was there during that meeting as well. We are working on procedures. We will be getting something out to our principals as well and staff, and that's in the process now, specifically again to COVID-19. And we will at some point revisit our actual homework policy as we move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you, Heidi. Does anybody else from policy want to speak about anything that happened at the meeting, or we're good? Okay. Sherelle, did curriculum meet? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, thank you. So curriculum did meet this evening. We basically had an update on the percentage and ratio of distance learning, the opt-in and opt-out. We discussed learning loss due to the pandemic and plans to bring students up to grade level. At present, they're undergoing a curriculum audit as well as a classroom library and learning commons audit, all based on diversity and ethnic inclusion. We discussed Tier 1 instruction versus Tier 2 and Tier 3 And the goal is to basically make tier 1 instruction so good that we won't need tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. But the highlight of the evening, it's based on a meeting that Dr. Estrella, Dr. Case, and I had, and it wasn't a group think, it was more of a meeting of the minds. Dr. Estrella coming from cultural inclusion, me coming from opposing viewpoints and critical thinking, and Dr. Case just sort of keeping us on track to make sure we're aligned with the core standards. And so out of that discussion, we decided to highlight the students, who of course, are the target of everything that we're doing. So we had students come in, and tonight they debated the Electoral College. And if anyone didn't see it, you really missed a treat. I was so proud of what Norwalk Public Schools are doing as far as critical thinking and having children think for themselves. And I hope everyone gets it. Was it recorded? Okay. So I hope everyone gets a chance to see these 4 students. They were absolutely phenomenal. And is it okay to say that? Okay, maybe not, for safety. You'll have to watch the recording. So that's my report.
Great. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Erica, did the ad hoc SPED committee meet?
We did. We met just before this meeting. The focus of the conversation was largely on the RFP, which I've talked about as part of our business meetings. But we have selected a vendor, and the board will be presented with the final contract negotiations when Yvette gets a little bit closer to closing out those negotiations. The RFP was able to be answered in full. So if you recall, I had presented that we had a much more robust RFP than the initial closeout proposal that the board approved last year. We rounded it out with a more comprehensive list of required elements coming out of the correct closeout reports, some enhancements, and some additional asks, and they were all met by the winning bidder. And the items on the RFP will cover everything from hiring and retention, our processes, training, capacity and competency, identification, implementation, execution, equity and access to materials, equipment, and staff, budgeting, and communication. So we're really excited to move through this process. It will be presented to the board, the final findings, in a tiered structure first in February to meet our budgetary requirements for the following year. And then there will be a follow-up presentation in time for our strategic operating plan.
Got you. Excellent update, Erica. Thank you. Barbara, do you have anything to add for Finance Committee?
Finance Committee, yeah, the Finance Committee has been involved in the work of prioritizing for our state grants, and we're very grateful for the hard work put in by staff to make sure that they meet our needs, and in embedding the proposals for the joint audit with the city. So that's what we've been working on in our world.
Okay.
Do you want liaison reports as well now or after?
We can swing around and do that after, I think. So for negotiations and personnel, we've had to reschedule the negotiations with the NFEP, but that will be happening in short order. And also for Facilities Committee, we met a while ago, and so I was just pulling up my notes, but we had an update related to the reopening of school buildings and the different sanitizing and distancing protocols and the facilities related needs that are being met by our custodial staff and by all of our wonderful team members. And then we had an update on the status of our capital projects. PONUS is almost completely complete. There are a couple of minor items outstanding. Jefferson is on schedule, even though we have had to make use of the building in this time, but the project itself is still on schedule. Cranberry, the grant application for Cranberry has been submitted. An architect has been chosen. Design meetings were being scheduled and may have taken place at this point. I'm not sure. Facilities is actually meeting tomorrow. So, or actually, no, I'm sorry, not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, but we will be meeting to discuss these things in short order. We talked about, or we had a discussion of the RFP for a new facilities master plan. And we talked about a little bit about the status of new CMS school, and we discussed a little bit about the capacity study that we have entered into with the city. That is what we did at Facilities Committee, and more to come about all of those things. Does anyone have a what's the word I'm looking for? Barbara, you just said it. Liaison. Any liaison updates? Sorry. I lost my train of thought for a second. Barbara, why don't you go first?
Okay. So Norwalk Acts has upcoming workshops through their Race Equity Consultants Partner Solutions on October 29th, November 19th, and December 10th at 10 a.m. They have a capacity for 500 people in each of those workshops, so we would love if anybody who are working with our children could take part in that. The next youth-led town hall is scheduled for October 28th at 7 p.m. And it's a reminder that this is for youth, led by youth, and that the adults are invited to listen. They also would encourage anyone involved in Norwalk Acts or working with our youth from cradle to career in our city, sign the memo of agreement with Norwalk Acts so that they have a written commitment of partnership. The next convening for Norwalk Acts will be on December 15th from 9 to 11, and they'll focus on their new strategy surrounding policy and advocacy, which I'm very excited about. I met with David Radcliffe, I think last week, and he's just we're very, very lucky to have him working for us through the Strive Together network. PTOC will have its first meeting since everything shut down, either on November 2nd or the 9th. And their topic will be to address fundraising strategies in the current reality, which is tricky. So we encourage everybody to attend and learn from each other. That's it.
Okay, great. Do any other liaisons have an update from their particular liaison assignments? Sherelle, is there any early childhood stuff happening? Okay. If no one else has anything to add there, do any board members have any announcements they particularly would like to make? I would say that I was very, very pleased to be invited by Sherelle to do a virtual jazz performance at the Norwalk Library. That was really delightful. And there will be video of that it will be edited and put out. And so everyone who wasn't able to see will be able to see. Do any other board members have any announcements? Colin, I feel like you often have announcements.
Do I?
You do. You got a lot of fun things happening for you.
Well, I think a lot of people know that I outside of my work on the board, I write children's books. And I wrote a book that is inspired by a story called Over the Moon, and it was published last week by HarperCollins. So if anybody's interested, it's really best for, I think, maybe kids 5 to 8. Feel free to check it out. Thank you.
I'm super interested, and I will be checking it out for both of my 8-year-olds. Okay, anybody else have an announcement? All right.
Hi, Sarah.
Oh, yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was muted and trying to figure things out.
Oh, no worries.
I just want to thank you for what you did with the library. Super talented, and I love the way you use your talents for both adults and children as far as healing. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really, really delightful to do.
It really was, so thank you.
Okie doke. We can do approval of minutes now. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Barbara, and a second. Erica, does anyone have any corrections or amendments? Any discussion of the minutes?
Just one typo.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, two. So page 5, paragraph 2, there's a capitalization typo in the word Mr. And then page 5, paragraphs 4, 5, and 6, Johanna Zenberger's name is misspelled, which is it's hard to spell. So if we could just correct that.
Okay. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the minutes with those corrections? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Everyone was here at that meeting, I think. Okay, and then the minutes also from October 6th. Does it motion, Erica? Thank you. Second? No seconds. Sherelle, thank you. Any discussion or amendments or corrections? Nope. Okay, great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful.
I wasn't there. Yeah.
Oh, you were there. Okay, Heidi
Yep.
abstains. Okay. One abstention, and it is Heidi. Okay, and so the next item on our agenda is an executive session. And so we need to have a motion to go into executive session, and then we will shut this Zoom call, and those of us that are going to come to City Hall to participate will do so. It is not permissible for us to have people participate in executive sessions remotely. So Barbara is motioning. A second. Sherelle, all in favor of moving into executive session? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now, Ralph, if you will stop the recording, and I'm going to scoot on over there. So I will see you shortly.
Okay, I'll end the recording and the Zoom session. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ralph.